You're listening to the Public Finance Live podcast series, brought to you by the PF editorial team, directly from SIPFA's 2025 annual conference in Birmingham, England. You can listen to our full series of episodes on the big issues being discussed at this year's conference by searching PF Live wherever you get your podcasts, or by visiting the podcast section of the Public Finance website. Hello, I'm John Watkins, Group Editor of Public Finance, and I'm your host for this PF Live podcast. This episode is called Empowering UK Devolution: Why Modern Finance Systems Are the Backbone of Confident Public Leadership. In it, we'll be exploring how integrated ERP and financial planning and analysis platforms can transform regional governance by providing real-time, reliable data to support transparency, resilience, and citizen-focused public service reform. All key issues as greater devolution leads to more complex financial decision-making under greater scrutiny. This episode is sponsored by Vision ERP, providers of managed enterprise resource planning solutions to the public sector. And I'm pleased to say I'm joined by two of the company's directors, Matt Bland and Dave Elbro. Matt, Dave, welcome.
Yes, John.
So we are right at the beginning. We're speaking right at the beginning on the first day of PF Live 2025. I know you've been before in previous years. What are you looking forward to, hoping to get from the event this year?
I think first of all, catch up with some old faces. So I think this is our third year in a row now, isn't it, Dave? So obviously we've made some, made some friends and colleagues as we go along the way. Start to talk to people at other stands, and you start to pick up like people who are here regularly, and you recognise them. You go and talk to them, but then also meet new people, meet some new customers. Hopefully, try and explain to them how we at Vision and in partnership with Unit4 and that can sort of help them with their particular system needs.
Yeah, and just on that, like this year with the whole reform going on, there's people coming back with different ideas, different questions. So it's just good to have some new conversations.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, let's have a conversation of our own and get into this topic right now. So, modern finance systems as the backbone of confident public sector, public leadership. We mentioned in the intro that ERP and financial planning and analysis platforms can be really key to transforming regional governance. Tell us a bit about why that is, why it's so important now in the context of the regional devolution discussion.
Yeah, so I think local government's about to go through quite a period of change. I think the aim is to sort of bring decision making down a little bit of a level, because sometimes you've got the two-tier authorities or you've got like massive unitary authorities, and what the aim seems to be is to sort of shift decision making to more local areas, so it covers smaller numbers of constituents. Which sort of means like there's going to be a whole bunch of councils merging together, getting rid of the two-tier system, and some large councils, like we've got a few customers like that, almost splitting up into new entities. It's exciting times, as is with a lot of change. It can also be a little bit scary. But what we're sort of thinking around today is people could take it as an opportunity. Definitely have a look at your systems that support administration, because these organisations, big, complex, wide-ranging in the services that they deliver, and they're going to sort of need to have the infrastructures in place to help support that. These days, old legacy systems wouldn't cut it. I mean, I think back to sort of when me and Dave were at Wolverhampton Council, we had a mainframe system from the 1970s. That would just die today. You wouldn't be able to cope with. I doubt there's anybody left alive who could possibly program it. That's how old it was. So this is where we turn to your modern integrated ERPs. So we at Vision implement Unit4. We've got a lot of experience in it, and we really believe it's good for the local government. And more importantly, it's got the flexibility to be able to adapt to these changes. Coupling that with the power of Unit4's FP&A tool, what you get there is the ability to take all this data that you've sort of gathered in your ERP from your day-to-day activities, maybe draw from other line of business systems, so like your social care, council tax, and all the rest of that sort of stuff. And what it really helps do is bring all this data together, turn it into information that can, help inform local decision making, inform policies. Where are we going to spend the money? Where is the demand for our services? That sort of things. And what you have to end up with is sort of like a single version of the truth. So not getting that, not having some over here and not having some over there, and which one is it? And then what it means is you can trust your data, you can act quickly, and also like there's going to be an increasing amount of scrutiny, I think, with lots of things moving around. So you'll be able to answer the questions asked of you as an organisation.
And you alluded there to making the right decisions, being able to trust the data. So how does that single source of truth help in terms of compliance? Presumably that's a big pressure for councils at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the single source of truth, it's effectively having all of your data from all your key operating systems, finance, HR, procurement, etc., just in an accessible place that's in real time. And that really informs the decision making for senior executives in organisations like local authorities. That coupled with sort of what Matt touched on there with FP&A, bringing in data from external systems or the line of business systems like your council tax and your social care systems to again put the statistics on top of the finances that are normally just sort of sat on their own. So it just helps that decision making process really.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how many times have we seen people arguing over whose spreadsheet is right? That's the thing you want to get away from. Like, my spreadsheet is great. Well, mine's better because it's got nicer colours on it. It's like, come on, go. If you just single source of the truth, that is your answer. Yeah, that's where you want to get it from.
Yeah, and you both talked about using that single set of that single set of data to help regional leaders redesign services around citizens, not just replacing old processes and decision-making processes with digital solutions, right? It's about changing the way that we make decisions and changing the direction that these organizations go in. That sounds like quite an ambition. Can you expand a bit on how that works and just what they can achieve?
Yeah, so like in the past there has been a focus on we'll digitise processes, and a good one I always think about is the old purchasing of things. So back in the day you used to have to fill out a paper form and it got somebody to approve and away you go. And now when we're talking about decision making, it doesn't have to be like massive decisions, it could be day-to-day decisions as well. So where it comes in is we're not just going to replace that form and actually look at, right, okay, who gets to approve it, what information do they need to be able to make the right decision that, yes, this is the right thing to buy, yes, we've got enough funds to buy it and it's going to meet some of our service delivery needs. And that's where re-engineering the processes into an ERP can help. So you're capturing all the information up front, what the demand is, what the person wants. It's flowing through to the person who is authorised and empowered to make that decision, and then you're presenting them with all the information. Have I got enough budget? Is it on my right cost centre, for example? And that we can do in ERP. What is important to think about as well, so we obviously talk about systems, but then you've got the actual people as part of the processes. 9 times out of 10 a computer will do what it's told, but then people can be like emotional, anxious, averse to change, that sort of things. And then that's where in the past we've worked with people like Quiet Laughter to come in and provide sort of project management support and sort of wrap around change management to the whole piece. So that's sort of really crucial. And what you can also do is when you're looking at these processes is take out almost like the hand cranking the data. So then back to the bigger decisions that might need to be made by more senior management. In the past, and I've done it myself in previous roles, you are churning out massive amounts of data in spreadsheets and whatnot to try and summarize it, to try and get it to tell a story, to try and make sense of it. It's really time consuming. And then like, I'm not so bad now because you got things like OneDrive where you can save it, but you go out from your computer and it just starts to crash and you've lost it all. It's 8 hours wasted. And what we try and do with specifically the reporting information side is take away that hand cranking of data. Like the data's already getting into the systems. If you're smart about how you hook it up and get sufficiently skilled people to come along and build your models for how how's it going to look, how's it going to forecast, how we're going to manipulate the data to tell a story, sort of thing. Then what you do is that skill shift from like hand cranking the data to actually what does it tell me? How can I get a story out of this data to give to somebody so they understand what's going on? And what it then leads to as well is sort of happier and more fulfilled employees. Because I've done data processing in the past. It's soul destroying, not going to lie. And I've seen other people where they've sort of taken a spreadsheet, printed it out, filed it away, and that was a job because that's what they've always done. So coming back to re-engineering the service at that, it's also about asking, why are we doing these things? Is there a benefit to it? It's ultimately doing any process costs money, public money, and you'd much rather see that spent on front-end services than back-office admin.
I think just on that, it's probably a fair summary to sort of say that the whole idea is to give business decision makers the right sort of information with the least number of interactions with all the various processes that are sort of been before it. So it just enables that sort of real seamless transition from taking some data, forgetting all the churning because, systems do all that sort of stuff, and presenting what the decision maker needs to have to make their decision, and hopefully the right one.
Different public sector organisations are at different stages of their transformation journeys and their digitalisation journeys. For those that are really at the beginning of buying into the concept of ERP and just what it can do for them, what do they need to be aware of? What are the things to consider right at the beginning?
I think it's like get a trusted partner first of all. So what we found in the past is we've seen people try and do it all themselves, and generally local authorities and, to be fair, other organisations doing projects on a day-to-day basis isn't their area of expertise. Their area of expertise is like serving the citizens of the county and that sort of stuff. So what I'd say is get a trusted partner or even group of partners in. So we've seen it almost from both sides of the table, where people have tried to do it themselves and end up making poor decisions. They haven't got the right governance structures in place. Again, that's where you can have all the partner organisations come in to help with the soft side of things, the change management, the project management. But then you also need to get people who know the technology, who know what it can do, who've seen it happen in other places, and also continue to innovate and come up with new and better ways of doing things. That's what I was going to say. Then get the governance structures in place as well, because in authorities there's a lot of scrutiny. People have really got to do that due diligence. Look at a lot of different systems, look at a lot of the demos, and ultimately make sure that you get one that fits your criteria. So something that's modern, cloud-based is the way most people are going these days, and also has got the flexibility. And that's why we work with UD4, because it ticks all those boxes. And it really does help deliver the benefits to the local authority customers that we like to serve.
Yeah, I think just on that, the idea of bringing in partners early into the whole sort of transition process here is to sort of figure out what the best practice is. And if you're sort of stuck in an organisation, you've done things there, you've done it for the last X number of years, you're sometimes a bit blind to what other options are out there. And one or many partners getting involved in that can all sort of contribute to some positive sort of decision making around what does good look like, or what can good look like going forward, and gives you the opportunity to sort of reinvent what that organisation effectively behaves like.
Yeah, and we've seen it in the past as well, where we've been brought in late to the party and things have already been decided and there's a whole bunch of work done, and it wasn't the right thing to do. And by getting that early engagement, getting the governance structures in place, getting the right partners at the table, you can really save a lot of time, effort and money by just doing it right the first time.
You don't have to unpick it.
Yeah.
You turn into Vision ERP specifically, you've mentioned a few times there about bringing in the right partners and being willing to partner with other organisations. And is that something that really sets you apart? And what else differentiates you from other providers in the market?
I think, our background individually, really. So before starting our company, we all used to work in public sector. And I think that creates a little bit of a niche to a degree. We've gone through restructures with those organisations. And ultimately, we, like Matt said earlier, we've seen it from the other end of that table. I think, working with the other partners, as we've grown as an organisation, we've sort of worked with people, realised who's good, who's not so good. And the people who are good, you keep them close by because they can help us, do better, and we can help them do better equally as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, in Vision, it's almost like the way we go about doing business, almost like our ethos. Yeah, so again, like Dave alluded to, in past organisations, we've been on the receiving end of perhaps a poor service. We've seen it where people come along and just sit in a role and take the money, consultants, and who aren't really adding value to our organisation. And we've kind of vowed never to be like that. We're always trying to be open, honest with our customers. The answer isn't always yes. Sometimes I say, we want to do this, and sometimes the answer is no. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to be sort of strong enough and confident enough to say no. But you don't just get no, because I've also had a no in the past. Like back in the day, trying to get information out of IT departments. Can I do this on my computer? No. We always try and give it a no, but. No, but you could do this, or why do you want to do that? Have you thought about this? And I think because we're not a massive organisation, although we are growing in size, what we're trying to do is sort of keep that smaller company ethos as we grow and try and instill it in all the new members of staff that we bring along so that we're more personable, approachable, relatable. And we're not here just to make a quick buck. We actually do we do believe in what we do, and we do want to invest in in councils and other organisations to be able to deliver the services that they can. Because as we seem to say every year when we get it, times are hard, money's tight. You want to spend it where you're going to get the most value.
Have you got an example to bring it to life of somebody that you've worked with and, to deliver a really good outcome?
Yeah, I mean, specifically in the context of reform, we, analogous to that, we've recently, it was last year, undertook a project with a customer of ours who we've had for about 9 years, one of our longest customers, isn't it, Dave? And what they had a thing where they need to create a new legal entity. So it was government body, and they were creating a company to go and do specific parts of it under the banner of a new whole organisation. So kind of analogous to this. And we sort of helped them twofold, actually, because we knew them. They got us into the project early doors to actually help define what the new world would look like. So sort of go in, talk to people, do that business analysis and really help them understand what their requirements were. And then the second wave was that one said all got their ideas straight and they knew what the requirements were. We then sort of went in, worked out how to reconfigure their system to be able to cope with the two entities. So they weren't spending any more money on licenses or anything like that because it was the existing system. But what we were able to do is help them reconfigure it so that it worked in the most efficient way to cater for the two entities. And perhaps a good thing to touch on there is because they were splitting out, actually one of the entities needed to do something slightly different to the original one. So we sort of helped them with the path to say, right, if it's this one, this is the way these things work. If it's the other one, that's the way those things work. And try and deliver perhaps like a complex solution, but in a simpler way. And we managed to do that. They had a definitive deadline because they had to start trading. And we managed to get them in on time and on budget with all the rest of that. And they're, again, another happy customer, which is what we like.
And if you have one piece of advice for, an authority looking to seize on the opportunity, but they perhaps don't have the experience in-house or, the resource available to take advantage of that, what's your one piece of advice for getting going? And
yeah, I think it's around planning and starting things as early as possible because, with the whole sort of deadline date of this reform, it seems like you've got a few years, but when things get going, that time soon slips away. So I think it's making sure that if it's a case that you want to engage with a partner like ourselves, do that early on, even if there's just onboarding and nothing else happening for a little bit of time, but it gives the people the luxury to sort of be able to plan and use that time to sort of better that organisation as well.
Yeah, there's always an old adage that was taught, like in the cadets back in the day. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I think that's applicable today.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, Matt, Dave, always good to see you and catch up at PF Live, and thanks for coming in to chat through that issue. Just before we wrap, if our listeners want to connect with you directly, what's the best way to do that?
On our website, effectively, visionerp.co.uk. If anybody's listening in from the conference today, we're at stand 36, so come on over and say hi and grab some goodies.
Top stuff. Brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've been listening to an episode of our Public Finance Live podcast series, brought to you by the PF editorial team directly from SIPFA's 2025 annual conference in Birmingham, England. You can listen to our full series of episodes on the big issues being discussed at this year's conference by searching PF Live wherever you get your podcasts.